Boston, the winningest sports city this century. Each championship deriving from a plan. Join us as we discuss the next Boston Banner Blueprint with your hosts, Josh Finkel, Nick Walsh, and Nate Philbrook.
What's up, guys? Boston Banner Blueprint, episode 5. We're talking Celtics today. We haven't done that, but there's some Celtics news that's coming up, so we decided we should probably talk about it. Before we dive into that, I'm going to send it over to Nate, as he's got a quick message.
Appreciate it, Fink. We always want to start exactly where to find us, and that starts on X at Boston Banner BP. Boston Banner Blueprint on both Instagram and Facebook. And then, of course, you can listen to this episode and all of our other episodes, for that matter, on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Kicking you back to you, Fink, for the start of the show.
Yeah, thank you, Nate. We got a couple new segments today, one of which you could win some Boston Banner Blueprint merch. That's going to be pretty awesome. Can't wait for that. And then we're introducing our producer for the first time with, I'm going to just let this segment out there because we're teasing another one. It's Tony's Takes. I'm excited for this one. I don't know about you guys, but I've been waiting for this. We've got the mic fixed. He's ready to go, so that's exciting. But we're talking Celtics. I'm kicking it to Nick, so take it away, Nick.
So we're coming off of a pretty up and down January, to say the least. They're right around 500 for the month, but they're sitting currently 32-14, second in the East. After they came out guns a-blazing in their title defense, 21-5 to start the year, and they hit a little bit of a road bump, but coming back tonight for their first home game after their West Coast trip where they went 3-1. For me, at least, I feel pretty good about them.
I want to know how Nate feels.
I mean, it's hard not to feel good about a second place through nearly halfway through the season, right? They're a volume team, and so I think that these ups and downs they're gonna come with time, and they've been among the top for the last handful of years. So, comes with the territory. How do you feel, Fink?
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. People have been asking me after every loss, "Oh, are you worried?" I every time I answer with, "I won't be worried until they lose a playoff series." Once that happens, if they lose playoff series, that's the day I'll be worried. I'm not nervous now. These lulls happen, like you said, Nate. A lot of volume, especially with the threes. Nate.
So if you're worried after they lose a playoff series, does that mean that you're worried about the projection of the blueprint going forward, or are you worried about like this current roster after their season is over?
I just
wanted to clarify.
People just in general, like as a fan, they just ask if I'm worried, like about the losses. So that's just my answer. About the blueprint and all that, no. Blueprint's great. I mean, it's hard to go back to back, especially in the NBA. I don't know the last time that's happened, but there's
Golden State.
In like
2017.
Yeah, so it's been a while, like 8 years. So it's tough to do.
2017,
look at the blueprint of those Golden State teams. But to answer the question, no, I'm not worried. I'm very happy with where the team is. I think they'll be fine, and as long as they're playing their best basketball heading into the playoffs, then that's all you can ask for. Because I still don't see really anyone beating us in 7 now on January 27th.
To piggyback off of that, Fink, where I would get worried, just because I'm a believer in history and track records and everything like that. I do believe in Phil Jackson's famous 40-20 rule, where true championship contenders have to win their 40th game before they lose their 20th. Right now, they're sitting at 32-14, which means they got to go 8-5 in the next 13 games to satisfy the 40-20 rule. Right now, there's really only 2 locks in the whole league outside of us, and that's obviously Oklahoma City and Cleveland. Unless a catastrophic collapse in the next 2 weeks, they got it locked up.
They have lost 3 of their last 5, I'm pretty sure.
They have, but they're still 35
yeah,
and
they're
9.
Still,
like
their record's still ridiculous. Yeah.
Houston is going to get there as well out west, more than likely, but they're such a young team. I'm not too concerned about them coming out of the West. So the 40-20 rule, outside of the 2 COVID seasons where the first one, the season got locked down, the second one was a shortened season. Out of like the last, what was it, like 30 seasons, only one team didn't satisfy the 40-20 rule to go on to win the championship, and that was the 2004 Pistons. So as long as they get to 40 wins before 20 losses, I am not worried, simply because of what you said. I don't see a team still that beats this team 4 times out of 7.
You answered my question. I was going to ask, are you worried that they won't hit 40-20? But you answered it, so I'm good.
Yeah.
Well, and two, I mean, it is
I
still
mean-
professional basketball or professional sports for that matter. And so, I mean, do you expect to come off a championship season in which you were the odds-on favorite going into the season last year? You went on, you handled business, and you won the championship as they should have. And so, would you expect a similar run in a league in which it is highly repetitive in the sense of everybody's trying to copy the next guy, right? And so, would you expect as equally easy run? I don't think that you could expect that in any professional sport.
No, for an easier run, last year is probably a generational, once in a lifetime type of season where they really did not hit a single road bump. There was not, how many playoff runs in any sport, any team, do you not really have outside of football where it's one and done? You lose one year, but anytime there's a series, usually there's a playoff moment during a series where, as a fan, you lose sleep over a bad loss and you have to overcome it. Last year, they went 16-3 against the league's top competition in the playoffs. Never lost a road game until game 4 in the finals, where they got walloped by 40 points because everyone knew they wanted to win on their own home court. So to expect that again, no, it's human nature. They're going to have a little bit of a hangover. And on top of that, now you got the target on your back. You're getting everybody's best shots. You're getting the Charlotte Hornets' best shots. You're getting the Pelicans' best shots. Name any other crap bag team, and I say that with all the respect that these guys are professional athletes and can wallop me on a basketball court anytime they want. But you're getting all
I'd
these
pay to see that.
Yeah, we're getting all these guys' best shots, and it's human nature for these guys to not get up for a game against Toronto in the middle of January on a Tuesday night. Like, they did it last year because they had something to prove. They really don't have that to prove anymore this year, and it's just get to April, May, and June healthy and take care of business then.
Define crap bag.
Basically the Pistons, the Pelicans of the world. When you think of the contenders in the NBA right now,
I don't know if I would put the Pistons in there right now. I know we're not a Pistons podcast, but Cade Cunningham, those boys out in Detroit, they're not a crap bag right now.
Okay, well, Toronto then. And I know we just lost to
Toronto, yeah.
a couple weeks ago. Yeah, but
no,
the
I
point
do
being,
get what you're saying, and I agree.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I'm not stressing a loss in January. Like, it goes back to if that's the playoffs. Yeah, then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm
Right.
worried. It's over. So,
And what do
like, we're the
most
defending
NBA
champs
fans-
until we lose in the playoffs or in the until you're out until your season's over. So
Yeah.
why be worried?
And what I keep going back to is, what do you hear most NBA fans and NBA pundits on TV say? The NBA regular season is meaningless. You know from the start the few teams that are going to make a serious run at the end. So we can't keep saying the NBA regular season is meaningless and then have World War III in panic mode over one bad month. Really, the first bad stretch they've had in 2 calendar years.
It's just how Boston fans are.
That's right. All right. The passion
Well,
is
you
what
see it
sets
on the
us
national
apart.
Yeah, it's the passion.
Right.
But I
you
do
hear on
agree
the national media too, is it time to panic for the Celtics? And it's not. It's like, yeah, they don't have their foot on the gas pedal full blow to start this during the middle of the year. You can't really expect that after what they did last year and knowing full well that they're going to be one of the 4 teams in the end.
I have a question for you guys. One thing, since we're talking about being worried, are you worried about Jaylen Brown?
Define worried, like in terms of health, because I think there's still a
Production
lingering
and
thing
play.
there. Well, I think health impacts production and play. Like he missed, what was it, 7-8 games in the beginning of the season for that hip injury. Do we know if it's fully healthy? If it's not, then yeah, I'm concerned about that impacting his production and play down the stretch. And who knows? Like you've seen, what do you want to call them? There's some reports out there on Twitter that say that he's impacted about the potential sale of the team, that he might be one of the guys that need to be traded for a new owner to help out with the cap hit and the tax bill. I don't believe that for a second. Like whoever the new owner is coming in, whoever it will be, I don't think their first act as the new owner is going to be trading one of the 2 faces of the franchise. I don't. So I think it goes back to health at the beginning of the year. There's not a team in basketball that has played more games than the Boston Celtics in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Going to NBA, to the Eastern Conference Finals, what is it, 6th time in 8 years for Brown? They're coming off a stretch of conference finals, conference finals. So it's no team has played that much basketball. So yeah, it's health and fatigue a part of it, certainly. So again, that just goes back. Get to April, get to May, healthy and intact, and we go from there.
And Jalen's never been the guy that he's never been the guy that is a necessarily sharpshooter or anything like that, but he's the guy that relies on his athleticism to beat guys around the corner or whatever it may be. And so, if it is a nagging hip injury or something like that, it certainly can answer a lot of questions on the production side.
Yeah, I'll answer my question now. I'm not worried about Jaylen Brown at all. The scoring's down, but his playmaking's at a career high. So I think obviously the scoring is going to be sacrificed, and that's okay, especially on a team like this. You got Derek White. When Derek White goes, they all go. They keep saying it. You got Porzingis. You obviously have Tatum. You have Drew. Obviously not a great year out of Drew, but yeah, I'm not worried about Jaylen Brown. Just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Well, I'm going to push back on Drew. I was thinking Derek White. I was going to say Derek White's had a bad 3-week stretch, but the first 2.5 months of the year, Derek White's been fantastic. So I take that back.
Oh, no. Yeah, I love Derek White. Drew's just struggled, but again, not worried about him. I think we all know when playoff time comes, he'll kick it up a notch. So not worried about Drew.
And he was ridiculous last year from the corner 3. He shot like
64%. 64.
Yeah,
this year was at like 30-something.
Yeah. Yeah, water was going to level out. Like, let's be real. If you are expecting Drew Holiday to shoot 64% from the corner again, be real. Like, will you?
Yeah, and to your point, the entire Celtics roster at this point is savvy veterans, and I think that their sentiment within their locker room is the same. Of these regular season wins and losses don't necessarily matter as much as the getting into playoff mode later into the season. So that includes Missoula at this point, of able to go ahead, Fink.
Look at LeBron's last few years in Cleveland the second time. He didn't really care what seed they got as long as they made it. And what happened? They went to the finals because it's LeBron. It's playoff time. They kicked you. You just got to know when to turn it on. And I know where Nate's going, so I'm sending it back to him.
Well, and that was just it. Is like you have a locker room of savvy veterans, and so quite frankly, at this stage of the season, these games don't necessarily matter as much as they will in April.
Especially when you only have 14 losses. People react like we're up to 25 or 24, like a lot of losses. We're at 14 losses. You're fine. You're the 2 seed. Like, I don't know. People, I love it. Love Boston sports fans, but sometimes it's like we got to take a quick step back for a second and look at reality here.
Yeah, you just got to listen to
And
the Boston Banner Blueprint.
and
Exactly.
also, again, I love history. I love knowing track records and stuff like that because you can kind of learn what happened, like with the 40-20 rule. Another one is history shows in order to win a championship, you kind of need that top 50 all-time player. And it's hard to project out sometimes, but go through, name any team other than the 2004 Pistons because they're the extreme outlier. Any other championship roster had at least a top 50 all-time player. You mentioned LeBron all those years, Steph and KD, Tim Duncan, Kobe, Shaq, R1 before last year, KG. Tatum is going to be a top 50 player all the time. If he stays with the team past this next contract, he's going to be a top 3 Celtic of all time, if not top 2. Like that's going to rattle some feathers out there for any of our older listeners, but he's coming for Larry Bird at number 2 if he stays with them past this contract. Whoever you have as your 3, he's going to get there. So Tatum's a top 50 player of all time. The other 2 biggest threats this year, Oklahoma City and Cleveland. Who's a top 50 all-time player on those rosters? Donovan Mitchell, maybe for Cleveland.
No.
That's a hard maybe. And I lean no too, Fink. But
that's like debating between a Big Mac and a Filet-O-Fish.
But I'm saying that's the one guy you look to at Cleveland if he's going to make that satisfy that rule. For Oklahoma City,
you guys remember that advertisement? Give me back my Filet-O-Fish. Oh, that is going to be stuck in my head the rest of the night.
Producer Tony, put that in there. All right,
Thank
Nick.
you so. Thanks for that.
But Oklahoma City, the
yeah,
SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is the only one right now for. But that's what I'm saying in terms of being worried. I'm not worried because there's not that other to satisfy. To win a championship in the NBA, you need 40-20. You need a top 50 all-time player. Right now, the only team that looks like they're going to satisfy both of those rules are the Boston Celtics. So, yes, outliers can happen. The 2004 Pistons are there to remind us of that, but that's once in 21 years. Like, I'm going to take the chances and go with the Celtics.
All right, so I think this is a perfect segue into Tony's takes. Let's give him a round of applause. I'm going to bring him in right now. Producer Tony C, everybody give him a round of applause. Let's hear what he has to say.
The debut.
Oh, whoops, I did it wrong. Oh, wait. What's going on? Okay.
What's up, fellas? Glad to finally be on.
Tony?
Been behind the scenes, got to hear you guys grow as a podcast and mesh, so now I'm glad to get on here and give some takes.
Yeah, Tony does a lot of stuff for us. All the clips you see, a lot of the social media stuff. That's Tony. Everything that's posted on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all Tony. We couldn't do it without him. Happy you came aboard. But it's Tony's takes. Tony, you say you like the Celtics, so let's talk Celtics. What do you think so far about the season?
I'm optimistic, and I think everyone should be as a Celtics fan after this a little bit of a rocky road the last few weeks. With the loss to the Lakers, the 20-point loss to them, and then the 10 or 15-point loss to the Raptors, I think that was a good look. Those are 2 games we should have won. But my first take I'll give you guys right now is the team that you guys didn't even mention in the East that I think will meet your criteria other than the 40-20 wins, Nick.
The Bucks.
The Bucks have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who that guy, he's already won a championship. He has multiple MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, and he has a closer now. He does have a closer in Damian Lillard. That's something that they have lacked in the past, and they have that. And they're 2 older players, and I think that's why their record's kind of where it is. They're kind of resting both of them. They've both missed a lot of time, kind of like that LeBron take. But yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm not worried about the Bucks one bit, not a single bit.
Either.
Unless for some reason we get eliminated before the Eastern Conference Finals, God forbid, if we face Milwaukee, I'm not worried one bit.
Yeah,
you mentioned Damian Lillard, which on offense, fantastic player. Absolutely, 100%. If the game's close in the fourth quarter, yes, I am scared. But who are they going to be targeting on defense when the Celtics have the ball? They're going to be going right
Damian
after
Lillard.
Damian Lillard. He's awful at defense.
There's a lot of other guys they're going to go after
Mhm.
too.
Right. So, and let's face it, in today's NBA, at least with the Celtics, you got to hit threes at a huge clip to beat the Celtics. You basically got to out Missoula ball the Celtics. Giannis can't shoot threes to save his life. So, are they going to have the firepower to keep up?
You also got to
no.
defend. You have to defend at a high level for 48 minutes for probably 7 games. And I don't see the Milwaukee Bucks doing that, a Doc Rivers team doing that. So that's why, I do agree, Giannis and Dame, it is scary, and they can probably win 1 or 2 games. Can they win 4? No, I don't think so.
I don't think that either.
Chris Middleton's status with the team's up in the air. He's not very old, obviously, but he's aging. He can't stay healthy. Brook Lopez is not what he was a couple of years ago at all. I'm not worried about the Bucks.
You said that about every team, though. That's my point. Is what team in gives you a worry besides maybe the Cavs?
I'd be more worried about the Sixers fully healthy than the Bucks.
No. Oh no!
Caleb Martin.
The Sixers.
Caleb Martin.
We own the Sixers.
Caleb Martin. You saw what happened on Christmas. Caleb Martin had made 4 threes in a month and a half, and then he comes in and makes 7. What did he do in the Eastern Conference Finals when he was on the Heat? I'd be more worried about the Sixers than the Bucks.
Fink, one question for you. When was the last time the Sixers made it past the second round?
No, you're not wrong. I'm saying just fully healthy, I'd be more scared of the Sixers than the Bucks.
When was the last time they did it?
Never.
No, they have. The last time they did was the famous Allen Iverson stepping over Tyronn Lue back in 2001. You're going back 24 years since they passed the second round.
Before I was born.
Exactly. So, again, not worried about the Sixers one bit.
Fink, you weren't born in 2001?
I was born in 2002.
Holy hell.
I'm 22.
Boy, oh boy. That makes me feel old.
What are you, 36?
Just about. Just about. Basically 46. So,
but
PT,
the only team in the East is the Cavs.
Yeah, I would agree, but I also, I think I'm really biased, but I'm still not worried about a Donovan Mitchell-led basketball team.
I hear you.
And that goes back to kind of his Utah days. We saw him be a 1 seed a few times. They kind of don't do well at the end, lose first round. Yes, this Cavs team is completely different, more firepower, better players around him, better system, better coach. Yes, I agree. They're an injury away. Look what happened last year. Garland's always banged up. Mitchell got hurt. Celtics easily won it. One person gets hurt on that team, they fall apart.
I think their X factor is Mobley.
No, I agree. I said that in the car the other day with my friend. We were talking about it. I said Mobley as well.
So, if both teams are fully healthy, say the Cavs stick with the 1 seed and have home court advantage, they're the only team in the East where I kind of give a second thought to, where, okay, this will be a challenge. But the other handful of contenders in the East, I don't give a second thought to. And that might come back to bite me in the butt come May. But right now, I can't say outside of the Cavs that any team actually really scares me or makes me worry at least a little bit.
I agree.
Tony, do you got another take?
Yeah, Tony, take number 2.
Well, I guess my second take would be is you guys talked about Jaylen Brown's play, and if you're worried about his struggling, I'm not worried about his struggling personally, just like you guys are. But you do have to look at the numbers. He's shooting the worst field goal percentage since his rookie year. He's shooting under 40, right at 45%, which his rookie year he was doing too. That does concern me a little bit. Obviously, to Nick's point, if he is battling through this injury like we think, I can see why that is. And he is also, to your point, Fink, this is the best playmaking year he's ever had of his career. He's almost averaging 5 assists, and defensive productivity always is there with him.
Yeah, no, I think another guy, like we talked about earlier, that kicks it up in the playoffs, Jaylen Brown, we saw it. How clutch was he last year in the playoffs? So I think just Celtics Twitter loves to start discussions. They love engagement. They love to panic. I think it's always premature. I mean, it's not even February. It's not even the All-Star break. Trade deadline still hasn't happened. But I think something we should segue into is what Nick has been talking about for weeks now, the sale of the Celtics that's looming. Nick, let's walk us through that real quick for our Blueprint fans that don't know.
So last week at the end of our episode where we said we were going to be doing our first Celtics one this year, this week, we knew roughly that the news of the sale is on the horizon. It was supposed to be in November, then it got pushed back to December. We're now at the end of January. And ironically, first thing this morning, what did I wake up to? A news report from Bill Simmons saying that none other than current Philadelphia Eagles owner Jeff Lurie is one of the potential bidders for the Boston Celtics. Like, that was one that made me perk up because I did not know he grew up right here in Massachusetts, right here in Newton. I didn't know right now, currently, he has his own private box at TD Garden for Celtics games. I had no idea. So that was a name I never gave thought of in terms of who a potential owner could be. You heard early on when they went up for sale that guys like Jeffrey Bezos were going to be bidding. Steve Pagliuca, the current co-owner, was, as of right now, besides Lurie this morning, it's the only other known bidder for the team. So you're starting to see more names pop out of who it potentially could be. And I'm not going to be the first one to say who's going to be the better owner or not. I just hope whoever does keeps this roster together as much as they can. I know it's a tough ask because of the extremely high tax bill. They're coming with the most expensive roster in the history of the NBA. I get it. You can't expect it to all stay together, but I hope he keeps it together as closely as possible.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you look at the three that you just talked about, Pags, Lurie, and Bezos, I think the one that Celtics fans would probably be cheering for the most in order to be able to sustain the contracts that they currently have would be Bezos, right? He has 250 billion net worth, whereas the other two guys are sitting around 5 billion net worth, which, you know, I'm not crying poor on them, but when you're talking about operating a franchise like the Boston Celtics, we see some of these limitations that come into play when you have other owners out there that are willing to spend limitlessly. And I understand the cap dilemma of the NBA, but when you have an owner that's willing to do whatever it takes to put a winning franchise on the floor is certainly beneficial. And I don't know if you saw this either, that it came out this afternoon that I know that Fenway Sports Group has been quote unquote in and then ruled out, but they also put their minority ownership stake in the Penguins up for sale today. And so every time they've done this previously, it's been with an immediate shoe to drop right after that. They sold some stake in Liverpool, then they bought the Penguins back in 21. And so now that they're selling the Penguins, it's going to be interesting to see if they re-enter the Celtics bidding process.
Oh, I hope not. Stay the hell away from my basketball team, John Henry.
If they buy the Celtics, what happens? Tatum and Brown are definitely gone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they get the Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts treatment.
Yeah, we don't keep our best players. Oh, I don't even. Can we not talk about that? Actually, let's just say they're still ruled out for the sake of the episode. Until we have to drop
sanity.
Until we have to drop an emergency pod that FSG bought the freaking Boston Celtics. Let's just not talk about it right now.
But in terms of a fan and realistic approach, I don't think Bezos is involved. He ruled that out a couple months ago. But he was just one because he obviously has the pockets to do it. But just to keep this continuity of the franchise, my preference is Pags still. Like, he knows the inner workings. He's been around for the last 23 years. They bought the team in 22. So I would stay with Pags. That's who I root for. Fink, who you had something?
Yeah. What's the price tag?
Probably going to be $6 billion.
Okay, Blueprint Gang, we need your help. Send us some money. We're going to buy the Boston Celtics. I'm going to be the GM. Well, that's up for debate still. Send us some money.
Brad Stevens stays in charge there.
Yeah. No, obviously Brad Stevens is going to stay in charge. We'll see because we'll be co-owners. So, but yeah, send us some money. We need $6 billion. We're going to buy the Celtics, and then you guys can have some control too. But yeah, back to you, Nick.
Yeah, I just want Pags. Like, if Jeff Lurie is the one who does end up buying it, him being a fan of the team, growing up here, knowing how this city is, he's in my opinion the second greatest sports city in America in Philadelphia. Like, living there for 6 years as I did, and now living in Mass and being a New Englander born and raised, I think out of the four of us, I can speak on this the best. Philly rivals us, not in championships, but in passion and intensity. Yes, there are some high-quality douchebags in Philadelphia. Absolutely, 100%. We have them too.
You just swear?
We just don't.
Hold on.
Douchebags?
Hold on. If Nick's work is listening, please let him keep his job. Please let him keep his job. Please don't fire him. Oh my gosh, Nick. I can't believe you just did this. Oh my gosh.
Saying douchebags? I don't consider douchebags, I swear.
Neither is fuck.
Yeah, neither is fuck, for fuck's sake.
But to your point, Nick,
is that getting edited out?
That's getting edited out.
Not a chance. Not a chance. People are here for the douchebags from Nick.
The Boston douchebags.
We don't climb telephone poles and wins and all that. I get that. But Jeff Lurie knows what it takes to be a successful sports owner in a high-pressure, fan-driven sports market in Philadelphia. So in terms of that, I think he would be a good owner. I don't know how he would be for basketball, but I think he'd be a good owner in the city of Boston.
I think my only concern is the last notable fan to purchase a team from their childhood fandom would be Rubenstein from that just bought the Orioles, and that hasn't worked out to date. Obviously, it's still early in his ownership, but I don't know if that, being a fan of the team really qualifies you as a good owner. Go ahead, Fink.
Yeah, I think I'm not a business major, but I think most smart business people know that you shouldn't have any feelings of what you're invested in your business. Like, you shouldn't probably work for your favorite team. I feel like it wouldn't be a great fit. I don't know. I'm not a business guy, but
Wick Grossback will tell you to kick rocks because he's cared about this team since the day he bought them and even before. And
I think he's selling the team though.
Well, yeah, because he maxed out Daddy's credit card.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's not working. We need Jeff Bezos. Bezos for the Celtics 2025. Bring that 250 billion, Tony. Billion. Yeah, I corrected, Tony.
I'll throw a name out there. It's a long shot. He's a huge Celtics fan, huge Boston guy. Nate Philbrook. No. The owner of Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy. His pockets are not near where these guys are, but he's someone who has always talked about owning a Boston sports team. And he has a lot of powerful friends that I'm sure he could gather together to try to buy a team like this. But yeah, Dave Portnoy, how would you guys feel about someone like him owning the Celtics?
I don't think he could gather up a partnership of $6 billion worth, but in terms of minority stake, maybe. I wouldn't rule that out if he gets a 2 or 3% stake of the new majority owner. I wouldn't rule that out one bit, but in terms of being the majority owner, I don't see that happening. Not for a franchise that's about to go for $6 billion if not
You,
more.
and Nick, you'd probably know better than me, but is the NBA a similar sort of league in which the other owners have to ratify each sale? So
That's
would
a
other
good
owners
question.
have
I'm
to
not sure.
approve
Yes.
Portnoy's?
Yes,
Yeah.
Nate. You're saying
Okay.
yes. He would
Oh,
need it.
I thought
I
I
think-
thought
I don't
you
think
meant
he
the
needs
other
every, though.
co-owners.
I think he needs majority. Like it.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
think he has to get everyone's approval. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that he's a controversial individual, and so I don't know.
Edit that out, Tony. Edit that out. Edit out the
We'd be able to
super
get
big.
those votes.
Yeah.
So
and
so
I don't think, yes, Portnoy's background would play a part in it, no question about it. But I think the major concern for the NBA right now and the fellow owners is get to that $6 billion price, because that's the price tag that they're targeting for the two new expansion teams coming in the coming years, the Las Vegas team and more than likely the return to basketball in Seattle. They want the Celtics to go for at least $6 billion because it is their premier franchise along with the Lakers. It's the Celtics and Lakers league. And if the Celtics don't go for $6 billion, an expansion team is not coming anywhere close to that.
a league in which allows venture capitalism or venture capitalist investment, similar to how the NFL just approved. That might be a question for Nick that you just muted. So
I unmuted him just for
I'm
the
not-
question.
I'm not a finance guy, so I have no idea. You're our finance guru here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, aren't you the finance guy, Nate?
I'm the
Okay,
finance
so
guy.
Nate has homework. He's gonna have to go Google that and then give us an answer on the next Celtics episode. Tony, write that down. Yeah, so skip the question till next episode.
But I think we've hammered out as much as we could for the new ownership right now, because it's still a process. We don't know. This was just a nice little headline this morning to really bite into. But going back to how the season looks and going the rest of the way, I know we touched about concerns and all that. If there are any concerns to pop up to derail this team the rest of the way, what do you think they could be and what they would be?
Nate,
So-
Nate, take it.
Yeah, just to kind of put a bow on that last point, venture capitalists via private equity can own stakes in NBA franchises. Just wanted to throw that out there. So they can.
Thank you, Nate. Nick, to answer your question, it was what would be the worries? Like what could
Yeah.
go wrong, essentially?
You're right.
Just I
Probably
think
just your scally cap.
injuries and that hat and beating themselves. We've seen historically Celtics teams beat themselves. They can't execute late in fourth quarters. It used to always be the discourse. Changed last year because, like you said earlier in this episode, they had a perfect year last year. Like nothing really went wrong besides the Porzingis injury, but even then they were still a juggernaut, so no one could really stop them. But I think it's themselves and then injuries. If they get hurt, if Porzingis doesn't play, I think that changes things. And I mean, it's basketball, it's sports. People get hurt and it changes. So
Answer your question on worries. You know, I think I hit on it earlier. They're a high volume team, and so anytime that you have a high volume team that they are on the smaller side, if they hit a cold streak as a team, that obviously would be a concern. Rebounding the ball, and anytime you get into the playoffs, it's a little bit more physical brand of basketball. You do have to have those concerns with the current roster construction, but as you mentioned, you know, it comes down to a math equation of if they shoot enough, they're professional shooters in a way that more likely than not they will end up in a winning scenario, and so they have those closers in Brown and Tatum, and so it's tough to see a major red flag with the team as it is right now.
And I'm so glad you brought up the phrase math equation, because that's really what it comes down to. And I try to hammer this point as much as I can. In terms
I mean,
of
you know that I'm a
three-point
big
shooting,
basketball guy, so I just had to throw that out there.
I actually was going to ask you a
But-
question about basketball, Nate.
Go ahead.
but
No, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna save it for our next. For one of maybe. Never mind. Nick, go.
But you hear all the time that the Celtics shoot too many threes. They're obviously the team that shoots the most threes, roughly 50 a game. But their whole team is shooters. Like, if that's your weapon, use it. The math says the more threes you attempt, the more likelihood that you're going to score more points than just when they shoot twos. I know it's not the best aesthetic to watch as a fan, but it's no question the 1 month that they flat out sucked this month of January, their 3-point rate went down by like 10 attempts a game. So they started playing the way that fans wanted them to, drive to the paint and all that. They showed they suck at doing it. So I don't care how it looks. I don't care about any of that. I care about winning. And if winning takes them shooting 73s a game, shoot 73s a game. Play to your strengths. Your strength is the 3-point shooting. It is a make or miss league, but you got 4 perimeter defenders that could get all NBA, all defensive votes. You have Drew Holiday and Derek White as your 2 guards. You got Brown and Tatum. Brown should have got on one of the all NBA defensive teams last year and didn't, which I thought was a crime in the voting. And you still got Porzingis and Al Horford down low protecting the paint. So as long as their defense ramps up in the postseason, keep shooting threes. Right now, even after a bad month, you have a top 3 offense in the league, and you have a top 5 defense.
Which,
just
I
stay
mean,
healthy, play your game.
Since we're talking about concerns, isn't that a concern for you? You just talked about Horford and Porzingis being your guys down low. I mean, you have a injury-prone unicorn and a guy that his age matches his uniform number in 42. So is that not a concern for you?
Al Horford's not a concern, no.
Al Horford staying, as long as they manage Horford's minutes down the stretch, which they do a good job of, I'm not really concerned.
But how would they manage his
Porzingis
points if you have an injury-prone unicorn?
For the regular season or the postseason?
For the regular season, they have centers that they could put in there and be fine.
Yeah.
Postseason, it would be a little bit. But they did it.
Yeah.
They did it last year. Porzingis didn't play, and they were fine. They lost 3 games.
Right.
I'm just saying that would be cause for concern for me.
I mean, yes, if you lose a guy like Porzingis or Horford, yeah, it's a concern, but that's what comes back to as long as they stay healthy. And I know Porzingis staying healthy is a huge if. I get that 100%. But if they're healthy, there isn't a concern at all.
I feel like Nate's secretly a Cavs fan.
I did grow up a Cavs fan, but I'm no longer a Cavs fan.
Probably a Hornets fan. I don't know, something weird.
We don't need to talk about my NBA fandom. We're here for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah,
I rep them proud.
But to your point, if they want to bolster their front court, basically, if they have those same concerns, a name to look out for with the trade deadline coming up, because they are a second apron team. There are very much limitations on the moves they can make. One name to look out for that would make a huge immediate impact is out in Utah and Walker Kessler. To make the money work, it would take Springer's contract, and you still have a ton of first-round picks, but you're dealing with old friend Danny Ainge, who we know likes to win every deal no matter the cost. So getting a big guy in Kessler who doesn't shoot the 3 all that well, but huge presence in the paint, huge rebound numbers. In terms of making the money work, it's probably Kessler and 2 first-round picks in filler. That would be the one name I would look for if they're going to make a quote-unquote major move. Other than that, it's probably going to be end of the rotation, end of bench guys that they target because that's who, unfortunately, the way the roster is constructed and the money, who they can really go after.
Yeah, I think I'll shoot down the Walker Kessler. I want Walker Kessler, but there's a report this morning that said Utah's probably not going to move him. I think that was from Bleacher Report when I was in class. Sorry, Professor
We
Watts.
all know.
She'll probably be listening to this, so if you're listening, Professor
We
Watts,
all
I'm
know.
sorry.
We all know Danny Ainge. If Danny Ainge can win the deal, no one's off the table.
Does Jaden Springer and 2 firsts do it, you think?
I would think that more than likely Danny Ainge would. Springer would have to be in the deal mathematically to make it work.
Springer's definitely in the deal. I agree.
Yeah. So it's how many first round picks does Danny Ainge realistically think he can get for Walker Kessler? If he thinks he can get 4, then no, obviously 2 first round picks is not going to do it, especially with the Celtics picks going to be 28, 29, 30 for the next coming years. But we've seen the last few years that the price of the value of second round picks have skyrocketed. So it could be 2 first round picks and 2 second round picks or something. I don't know what the asking price will be. This is just off the cuff what guys have gone for in the past. So
yeah, no,
Kessler is the one guy that, in terms of a major name that they could get without trading any of their rotation guys of their top 8 of the starting 5, Horford, Hauser, Pritchard.
Yep.
Kessler would be the one guy I would try to get away from Utah.
I think Kessler's definitely my number 1 target, Nick. I don't know how likely it is, but then I think they probably need some help on the wing. Maybe Jaden Springer is. I know he's not really a wing, but he can defend. We saw it in that Clippers game. But I think it was a Clippers game. Maybe I'm mix matching him, but he hit a couple threes, 4 steals. I think maybe wing help, but Walker Kessler is definitely my number 1 as well. Tony, you got any targets you want to look at the deadline?
I do like the Walker Kessler one because that is, I think, our position we need to worry about with Porzingis' injuries. And Al Horford's age, obviously, that's a factor. But I don't see the team making a big move like that before the trade deadline. I just feel like we'll get maybe some bench help a little bit, but I don't think I see us doing a big move like that. I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah,
personally.
one name I've seen floated a lot is Javonte Green. I think he's floated every deadline in talks with the Celtics coming back here.
What's his price at? Because it's all going to come down to if they have
very cheap.
It can't be
very
much.
cheap.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it would work. Yeah,
if he's league minimum, it makes it easy. But if he's above league minimum, it's going to be Springer. Springer's the one tradable piece that you.
I don't have the number, but I'm pretty sure the trade would work. I saw it on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it.
Must be.
That is a very reliable source.
It's definitely true. It's definitely true. All right, well, I think this is a perfect time to get into our brand new segment that's going to be hosted by Nate. So I'm going to kick it to Nate, and he's going to take it away with this new segment here.
Yeah, so let me explain the rules really quick. Is that we want to involve all of our fans in the latter half of this episode. Of what we're going to do is I'm going to ask 1 trivia question per episode based off of the team in which we have just gotten done talking about. Respond wherever you listen to this episode. Respond on X or Facebook or Instagram or in the YouTube comments with the answer to the trivia. And then if that'll enter you into a drawing, we will DM the winner. We'll get the mailing address and we'll send you some free Boston Banner Blueprint merch. And so hopefully everybody has that pretty well understood. But this episode, obviously we talked about the Celtics. And so the trivia question is, what 1981 Celtics draft pick played MLB for the Toronto Blue Jays while staying enrolled at BYU? Nick, don't
I'm
look like
I'm
that.
not gonna give the answer right.
I already texted
But-
it in the private chat.
Yeah.
Again, so
I
that
know
is
the
what
answer.
1981 Celtics draft pick played MLB for the Toronto Blue Jays while still enrolled at BYU. Put your comments put your answer in the comments for some free Boston Banner Blueprint merch. Moving into our final takes of our first Celtics episode. Think you want to kick off final takes?
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the rest of the season. I'm always excited for playoff basketball. I know we're kind of a little ways away from that. Past January and on, it's kind of the dog days. It kind of drags on. It's a long season. It's very repetitive. But I think once the playoffs come, the Celtics, they'll be ready as long as injuries don't happen, like we've talked about a lot. But they're battle tested. They've been there. Joe Mazzulla is a great leader. We talk about leader of men all the time on our Patriots podcast, and Joe Mazzulla is exactly that for the Celtics team. They're well coached. They're disciplined. They have great players. They care about each other. It's a good locker room. So I'm excited, and I'm hoping for that we go back to back, get that 19th banner.
Nick?
I would say my closing thoughts is basically going to echo that. Like, I think we heard last year, Joe Mazzulla is the king of crazy quotes and crazy analogies. And the one thing we heard last year was the killer whale offense, that any one of these guys can come at you at any given night. We saw Derek White drop 30-something points against Miami in the playoffs last year. We know what JT and JB can do. KP, if he's healthy. Come time for the playoffs, it's if all guns are going, it's kind of pick your poison. Which one's going to get you that night? We really haven't even talked about Pritchard, who's been basically going to be winning sixth man of the year this year, coming off the bench. Just takes one crazy half court shot from him that he's prone to make once a playoff series. So they just got too many options for any team to realistically shut them down completely. So Finkel touched on it earlier in this episode, where really the only team that's going to beat the Boston Celtics this year is the Boston Celtics. So as long as they don't beat themselves, they're still the betting favorite. They're still, in my view, my biased view, the favorite. So all the pastures are still green, not to be too cheesy here.
All right, look at your hat. So
After the longest final take ever, PT, you want to take Tony's takes on final take?
Yeah, sure. I'm probably just gonna echo what Fink and Nick had said. I think we're gonna hit that easy mark of 40 wins before 20 losses. We should be the favorite.
Easy mark.
Huh?
You said easy mark.
Well, it's easy for us right now. All
It's
we have
easy
to do
for
is
us.
go 8-5, right? In the next 13.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
easy.
I'd say that's pretty doable for this team.
No, I agree. It's just
Well,
just don't play
anyways,
like they did in the last month, then they will.
Yeah.
okay. Back to Tony's takes. Sorry.
No, I think this team will be fine when it comes to the playoffs. I think we'll be right back in the championship. I just think the one team that in the West, and you guys saying they're young, and they are young, is still the OKC Thunder. But they're built very similar to how the Celtics have been built in the past, and also they're the number one defense in all of basketball right now. I think the Celtics are 3 or 4 in the rankings, so they worry me a little bit. But Celtics are 5.
Yeah.
But this team, I think we'll be right back in the finals. The East should be no problem. Just the West, I guess, a little bit of a struggle. That's it for me.
Yeah. The way I look at OKC is how the rest of the league looked at us 2 years ago when we went up against Golden State, where we're good. We're probably the team that should have won, but we know in this league experience matters, and got to kick out the can so many times before you get it. So that's why if it's OKC versus Boston, it's going to be probably the toughest matchup. But I would go with the experience there with the Celtics.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that I have to put a bow on the episode is I keep number one. I think we need to retire the Scally cap. That's always my opinion there. Number two is I just keep thinking back to the beginning of the episode when Nick put himself on a court with an NBA player and saying that, yeah, I think he's better than me. So I just can't get that out of my head, and I hope PT can do something creative with his media skills and put Nick on an actual NBA court with this NBA superstar. That would be hilarious.
I think there might be a picture I have in mind for that.
Beautiful. I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it. So, but before we leave you for this episode, we of course want you to know exactly where to find us at Boston Banner BP on Twitter, Boston Banner Blueprint on Facebook and Instagram, Boston Banner Blueprint on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. I think we're recording another episode later this week, another Sox episode. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't talked Sox in a while, so I'm excited for that.
That's going to be recording on Wednesday, dropping on Thursday. Am I correct there as well?
Yes.
Beautiful. So without further ado, any last thoughts before we end recording?
Nothing from me. Tony?
Nothing.
Nick?
I got nothing. Go C's.
Nate?
Appreciate y'all for listening. Have a good night. Peace.
Thank y'all. See you later. Peace.